So, decomposition of organic matter. Okay, we will study the role of microorganisms. Now, we ha- first we have to understand the process of decomposition. What do you mean by decomposition? Decomposition, it means the breakdown of the complex organic remains, okay? The physical and the chemical breakdown of complex organic remains with the help of organisms called the decomposers. And these organisms, okay, the decomposers, they are mostly present in the soil. So here the complex organic remains, it means any dead remains of both plants and animals and their excretions. Okay, so complex organic remain here, it means any dead plant parts, animal remains and excretions. And these organic complex organic remains, they are referred to as detritus. Okay, so the common term for these organic remains, it is referred to as the detritus. So next we will take a look at the decomposition process. So, in the decomposition process, okay, carried out by the microorganisms, Miss, she had given you the mineralization process and also humidification process. So, if you study the notes, it is written in a very simple form. You can understand, okay, girls. So, but here I just want to mention some other important process which occur before mineralization and humidification. Okay, so for example, to understand these decomposition process by the organisms, okay, by other organisms, not only microbes but other organisms. So the first process here is fragmentation of the detritus. Okay, so the first process is fragmentation. Now, in fragmentation, to understand this, just imagine it's a leaf which has fallen off from the tree. So that leaf is not directly decomposed by the microorganisms. Okay, actually, the first process is fragmentation, in which the other organisms such as the termites, the beetles, and the earthworms, which are present in the soil, they will feed on the larger pieces. That means these are the organisms which will feed on the leaf, on that leaf. Example I am giving you is the suppose a leaf which has fall off on the ground, on the soil. So these organisms, detritivores, examples such as termites, earthworms, and beetles, they will feed on it and they will break down into smaller fragments. So that leaf is being broken down into smaller fragments by the termites, the beetles, and the earthworm. So when they feed on that larger pieces of the leaf, then only smaller portions are left. Now comes the next step, that is the next process, that is catabolism. It is in this catabolism process where the role of microorganism comes into picture. Okay, so these microorganisms, they will start to feed on these smaller fragments. Now, how they will decompose? They will excrete some enzymes, digestive enzymes, over these smaller fragments of the detritus. For example, of a leaf which has been broken down during fragmentation process. Now, these microorganisms, they will feed on this. They will produce some enzymes, digestive enzymes, and they will change this complex organic substance into simple and soluble organic and inorganic compounds. Okay, so now these complex organic substance have been changed into simple and soluble organic and inorganic substances. So now we see that the role of the microorganisms, it comes into picture here in this process catabolism, where they will feed on these smaller fragments. Next, what happened? The soluble organic substances formed during the catabolism process of decomposition, they are subjected to leaching or passage to deeper layers of the soil. Okay, so that means these soluble organic compounds which are formed, they will go down deeper to the deeper layers of the soil because they are soluble. So they will go deeper down to the deeper layer of the soil, and this process is termed as leaching. So next, let us take a look at this. Okay, you can see here this schematic diagram representation on the process involved in decomposition of the organic matter or the detritus. You can see that the detritus, okay, the process involved, the first one is fragmentation. Now what happened in fragmentation is that the larger pieces, they have been broken down into smaller fragments by other organisms. Then the second process, okay, is catabolism, where the role of the microbes is to decompose these smaller fragments into much simpler soluble substance. And the third process is leaching, where these soluble substance, they will leach or pass down into the deeper layers of the soil. Okay, so these three process. Now what happened in with the help of certain environmental conditions, okay, humification and mineralization will take place. We can see in humification, uh, the humus will form, okay, from the organic matters, from the remain organic matters, because during leaching process only the soluble organic matters, they pass down to the deeper layers of the soil, whereas other organic matters, they remain on the surface of the soil. Just remember that in leaching process only some of the soluble substance, they pass down into the deeper layers of the soil, whereas other organic matters, they remain in the soil, in the surface of the soil. So here what happened to these remains, the organic remains which are present in the surface of the soil? Now these will be converted into humus in a process termed as humification, and also mineralization will take place. Okay, so some of the or other organic matters, they will be converted by the microorganisms into simpler substances, okay, such as the carbon dioxide, water, nutrients, minerals, okay, so in a process termed as mineralization. So let us take a look at the next process of decomposition, the continuation, okay, that means after these catabolism, then humification and mineralization will occur. And also, if you see in your notes, also it has been mentioned that both humification and mineralization, they uh, takes place, they go hand in hand. Okay. So, what is humification? It is the process of formation of humus from debris or organic remains. I had mentioned that those organic remains which do not leach into the deeper layers of the soil, those which are remain on the surface of the soil, now in those organic remains, they will get converted into humus in the process termed as humification. Now, what is humus? You must have seen that the soil which is very rich in humus, it is very dark colored. Okay, so humus, it is a dark colored amorphous organic matter. So it is not crystalline in nature, it is amorphous organic matter. And just remember, girls, this humus, it is very rich in nutrients, okay, in lignin and cellulose. Now, what are lignin and cellulose? These are the complex and important structural component, okay, the complex organic polymers, okay. Lignin, they used to form the structural materials in the support tissues of plants and other microorganisms. Even cellulose, it is a polysaccharide, okay. This polysaccharide, it forms the important structural component of the primary cell wall of plants as well as microorganisms such as algae and fungi. So this humus is very rich in lignin and cellulose, and it is humus is quite resistant to microbial action. Okay, so uh, because it is resistant to microbial action, so the decomposition of humus to produce nutrients is very slow. And humus, it acts as a reservoir of nutrients, okay. That means a reservoir means a large supply, okay. It acts as a large supply for nutrients, and it is also helpful in maintenance of the moisture of in the soil as well as aeration, which is very good for plant growth. So here you can see, okay, that the humus is colloidal in nature, and it is very rich in nutrients, and these nutrients, they are released slowly. Why? Because I had mentioned earlier in the previous point that it is resistant to microbial action, okay, somewhat resistant to microbial action. So the decomposition process, it takes place very slowly. So in this way, the nutrients also, they are released slowly. And the next process, okay, the mineralization, meaning the decomposition process by the microorganisms which release the organic substance into the soil. And these inorganic substance, they are the non-minerals, okay, for example like carbon dioxide, water, and minerals like calcium, magnesium, potassium, ammonium ions from the organic matter. So the transformation of these organic matter into simpler inorganic substance, both the uh, carbon dioxide, water, and also other minerals and nutrients, is termed as mineralization. And this mineralization process is also takes place with the help of these microorganisms, okay. All the microorganisms, we can see they perform a very important, thus they perform a very important role in the soil, in the decomposition of organic matter, as they release these carbon dioxide, water, and other nutrients to the environment. So here you can see, okay, that the humus is colloidal in nature, and it is very rich in nutrients, and these nutrients, they are released slowly. Why? Because I had mentioned earlier in the previous point that it is resistant to microbial action, okay, somewhat resistant to microbial action. So the decomposition process, it takes place very slowly. So in this way, the nutrients also, they are released slowly. And the next process, okay, the mineralization, meaning the decomposition process by the microorganisms which release the organic substance into the soil. And these inorganic substance, they are the non-minerals, okay, for example like carbon dioxide, water, and minerals like calcium, magnesium, potassium, ammonium ions from the organic matter. So the transformation of these organic matter into simpler inorganic substance, both the uh, carbon dioxide, water, and also other minerals and nutrients is termed as mineralization. And this mineralization process is also takes place with the help of these microorganisms. Okay, all the microorganisms we can see they perform a very important, thus they perform a very important role in the soil in the decomposition of organic matter, as they release these carbon dioxide, water, and other nutrients to the environment. So last here we will just take a look at some of the factors which affect the decomposition process. Okay, so these are the important factors affecting the decomposition process. The first one, that is temperature. So for the decomposition process to occur, a soil temperature is usually 25 degrees centigrade, and the moisture is very essential for decomposition of the organic matter in the soil. The pH which favors the decomposition process is usually neutral, that is pH 7. And the composition is very important factors affecting the decomposition process. Why? Because you can see here, if suppose those organic matters they are very rich in chitin and lignin, then the organic matter it is very slow to get decomposed by the microorganisms if they are very rich in chitin and lignin. And also the last factors which is very essential for the activity of the decomposer microorganisms is the presence of oxygen. So oxygen is very important for decomposition process, that is the aerobic condition is essential for the activity of decomposition.